Everyone, and thank you for joining us at Secular AZ today. We are a 501c3 organization focused on protecting the Constitution and the separation of church and state for over a decade. We have some great programming, including a series of school board candidate forums that happen Wednesday evenings at 6 o'clock. Next Wednesday, we'll have a forum for school board candidates in the Tucson Unified School District. Next Friday, we will be speaking to members from Voter Choice Arizona to discuss ranked choice voting. We also have some t-shirts for sale. They are on our website, secularaz.org. If you want one, you can visit that website. Additionally, we've created a space on our website to showcase secular wedding and funeral officiants. So if you are legally certified to officiate weddings or internet certified to officiate weddings, as I am, please reach out at info@secularaz.org with your bio and a picture. Finally, we have a fundraising opportunity with a matching donation campaign. So please, we are a small but mighty organization, and we rely on the generosity of people who donate to us. And our membership prices are going to be going up at the end of the year, so get them while the getting's good. Today, I am really excited to welcome some members of a local Arizona advocacy organization for LGBTQ plus rights. Equality Squad is a group of LGBTQ plus members and allies dedicated to making Arizona a safer place for everyone through civil actions, education, mutual aid, and community building. We will be taking questions from the audience. So if you do have questions, please post them in the Q&A or in the Facebook comments, and I will do my best to monitor them. So today I'm really pleased to be joined by two members of Equality Squad. Today we have Carla Roberts and Ash Tulino. And I hope I'm saying your name right, Ash, is that correct?
Yeah, you're all good.
Okay, good. So during the legislative session, I met Carla and some other members of this organization as bills like SB 1138 and SB 1165 were moving through the Arizona legislature this past year. We'll talk about what was in those bills here in just a minute, but I want to allow our guests to be able to introduce themselves and talk about how you got started with this organization. So how about if we start with you first, Carla? Go ahead. Nice to see you.
Hi, Jean. Thank you. It's great to see you. It was really nice to meet you this year. So my name is Carla Roberts, and I'm a member of Equality Squad. And basically, Equality Squad was started by a trans woman. Her name's Joan Etude Arrow. And so she started it so that we could bring awareness and get the Equality Act passed. So we started working on that, and then Joan, she's an amazing advocate. She goes to school in Canada, and she's got busy kind of doing and starting her own grassroots advocacy work up in Canada. And so she gave Equality Squad to myself and two other moms. So at that point, we were nearing ledge session, 2022, which we just heard was going to be really bad for our community. And so we, we started looking into what can we do? What are we going to do? And so in Tucson Saga, which is the Southern Arizona Gender Alliance, they fortunately, Lizette Trujillo, and HRC, Bridget Sharp, they did, and I believe Debbie Jackson, she's also a great, amazing advocate in another state. And they did a training session for us in December. So then, Equality Squad was kind of going like, okay, well, we can keep bringing awareness to Equality Act always. But right now we should really focus on what's happening and getting parents prepared for what's going to happen, and also getting them to the Capitol and having them testify and teaching everyone, because it was just all, we went to every single, they introduced, like, I keep hearing the numbers, there was like 14, 15, and so we went to every single one, every single time we could go testify, we went and we testified. And I myself, of some of the members of Equality Squad, we met privately with some of the senators. I myself met with Blackman, Representative Blackman. My daughter, he met my trans daughter. I happen to have an 18-year-old trans daughter. He met with us. And then literally 3 days later, they passed 1165 and 1138. So, I went to them, like telling them, our kids are going to commit suicide. People will die. This is dire situation, because I thought they cared. And I figured out pretty quickly they didn't. By March 30th, it was quite clear that this was a war, that they started a war with us, because we're not just going to sit back and let them take away our rights, And so I came home and I even told Representative Shaw, I said, I'm going to go home and I'm going to organize Tucson. Like this cannot happen. This can't keep happening. It has to stop. So fortunately, I was embraced by the Tucson community, and we had a big event in May, and the mayor spoke. Stephanie Stahl Hamilton spoke. Other people spoke, and they were all very, I think the only reason that they even mentioned trans people is because I was standing there with my signs. I had 4 signs, and I was standing there with, all 4 of them. And I'm pretty sure that's the only reason they mentioned trans people at all. And then I went last, and I went up there, and I think I dropped like 1,000 F-bombs. I just was like, we are in trouble, Tucson. You need to activate. We need to activate. So, since, and then the Roe decision dropped, and that was June 24th. And Ashla and I were actually in the street that night, and we both got arrested. I know a lot of people don't know what's going on. It hasn't been highly publicized, and we, kind of, because it's an open case, don't talk a lot about it, but we both got arrested. And so it's been a pretty eventful summer for Equality Squad. We're still doing education. Now, we're incorporating, because I'm like, okay, it's August. Last year at this time, I started thinking about January and that week where the legislators go crazy and write all those crazy bills. It's just like an insane asylum opens up, and they just dropped all those crazy bills on us. And then it didn't stop, and then we killed 1138, and they brought it back. And it actually passed, so it's one of those terrible laws that will greatly affect our children. So it's just been a really dire situation for us in this community.
And if I'm, remind me too, 1138, and you're right, it was like a flurry of just the most radical, extremist, culture war kind of legislation that I've ever seen. And what's even crazier is like that there are states who have outdone Arizona with regards to some of their insane bills. So 1138, if I'm remembering correctly, is the one about gender affirming care for trans people. Is that correct? Or trans youth?
And directly having to do with surgery.
Right. Okay.
Which there was WPATH, which they are the ones who, with the AMA, make all these decisions. And the day we flipped it, we told Senator Pace all this stuff. And so he said, okay. And then they turned around and they went even further and made it from 16 to 18. But if you have a cisgender kid who wants a nose job, you can make an appointment tomorrow. But if you have a transgender kid, you can't get surgery. And I already know of families who are being denied medication. People are already going out of state because they're afraid. They have bounties. That's what they did in Texas. They basically put a bounty on the family. If they knew of somebody who was giving gender affirming care to their kid, they turned them into the department, to CPS, to the Texas Department. And children were investigated. Families were investigated. People are leaving Texas. Arizona does seem hell-bent on following suit, which if we do not eliminate all of these people from office, we're going to have this fight again in January.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We will continue to see this. There's so much that I'm thinking right now, but first I want to give Ash an opportunity to introduce himself. So Ash, how did you get involved with the Equality Squad? Give us a little introduction.
So I became involved with the Equality Squad right when I met Carla at that event she was talking about in May. I was just really inspired by her passion when she was speaking. So I went up to her and I said, hey, I want to get involved and be as passionate as you are in front of all these people. So I went and I started attending meetings. Born and raised in Tucson, so I have been here for the summer, but I'm also a student up at NAU. So I'm actually leaving tomorrow again for Flagstaff. But I just wanted to become involved in my community where I grew up and do as much as I could here before I take what I learned and what I gained over the summer up to Flagstaff, and I can continue the work up there in Northern Arizona.
That's great. What are you studying, Ash?
I am a double majoring with criminology, criminal justice, and politics and government. And then I have a minor in sociology.
Wow, that's quite the workload.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to add anything else to your plate and you feel like starting a secular student alliance at NAU, please let me know. I'll give you my contact information.
Absolutely. That would be amazing.
Right? That would be because,
Yeah.
you know, after COVID, we had groups and one of our board members, Sammy, is working on building up the one at ASU. But COVID hit and it kind of just, you know, fizzled out a little bit. So we could talk about that offline because
yeah, absolutely. That would be amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I met Carla and I remember too. Now, when did you say that you all first started actually, you know, going to these committee hearings and testifying? Because I saw a lot of folks from all kinds of organizations, but specifically Equality Squad. And from what I remember, you really haven't been doing this that long, but wow, you all are incredibly good at it and really drilling down that message.
Well, this is my first year. I've lived in Arizona. I was actually born in Phoenix. I've lived in Arizona my whole life, and I've never felt the need to go to the Capitol ever. Now I know exactly how to get to the Capitol. I know exactly where to park. I know where the bathrooms are. I know the security guard, Joe. I take his mints all the time, you know, and like, you know, I basically, I like to paint rocks, you know, this is a rock I would like to paint. I did not have any intention of going to the Capitol 3 times a week or finding out the night before we're going to have to go to 2 different committee hearings because they're infamous for, it's emotional for me when I think about this because it was such a tough year. You know, it was really hard to go and talk to these people over and over and over and tell them like, to stop, and they just would not stop, you know. And then the thought of them doing this again next year is like, you know, when we went this last year, we cried and we told them, please don't do this, please don't do this to our kids, and they did it anyways. So they blatantly don't care. You know, we see it over and over with immigration, with rent control, with our indigenous people. Like they do not care about us. And it's unacceptable, you know, because we deserve liberty and justice as well. You know, like I said, I was home painting my rocks and they came after me and my kid. And I'm really, really lucky because my child is 18. So we don't have to, I mean, we have to deal with discrimination. You know, when people say like, oh, it's not about the bathrooms, just it's like it wasn't about the water fountains. And they're right. You know, this is blatant discrimination. They're going after children and parents because they're trying to wipe out their existence. You know, sound familiar? That's what they did to the indigenous people. You know, so this is how our government operates. And I am like, I can't live like this anymore. I won't live like this.
Well, I'm just glad that you can find it within you to continue fighting because you have a powerful voice. And if I'm remembering correctly, Carla, one of the things that made such an impression on me about you is I believe it was you that opened up by saying, I am a registered Republican, or you used to be a Republican. So I want to hear a little bit more about that kind of journey that you've gone through.
So I went up there and, I heard everybody saying, oh, hello to committee and giving respect to them. And I didn't feel like that was appropriate at all, after them coming for me and my family. And like I said, so I went up there and I was like, my name's Carla Roberts. I am a Republican. And I can't believe that you're doing this to Republicans as well. Like you're doing this to all of us. Not sure how much longer I'll be a Republican, to tell you the truth. It's hard to be a rhino. But I also was able to vote against people in the primaries. It was still very difficult to see, but I voted against Blake Masters and I voted against these people trying to give more momentum to the other side, and so so it's really tough. Like I'm embarrassed about it, to tell you the truth, but I just went, and Nancy Bartow actually told me to stand down, that she felt threatened by me. And I was like, well, that's good, because I'm really offended by the laws that you're writing against my family, and I'm not going to stop coming.
Wow. Yeah, that's, that you're coming at her for using your voice. I just, that's not a threatening. I mean, if you are an elected official, people are allowed to give you their opinions. A lot of them don't hold town halls or anything like that, but that's part of the job. So 11.
Every single one of them. I wrote to every single one of them. I called every single one of them, so I do, when I hear like a lot of times they're like, let's strategize on this. And I was like, nope, I'm calling everyone. I'm talking to everyone. And I feel like I said, I came home to Tucson and I was like, we have to organize. We have to. And we don't all have to belong to the same group, but the fact that I know Jean and Jean can reach out to me and say, hey, and I do feel like if I'm not there, if Ash isn't there, the transgender community is not represented, and we need to stand there in their face. And next year, if the votes don't go, the way we need them to go, I'm hoping that we fill those rooms with families and people, transgender, everybody that we can muster, fill those rooms, even if they tell us, because a big thing they like to do is limit 3 people for, 3 people against, when we have a room of 50 people who want to speak. And, hearings at 8:30 on a Wednesday when most people are at work, like extremely inconvenient. This process is not for the people.
Right. And even when they'll have, they'll have a dozen people, lobbyists for very specific organizations oftentimes signed up to support a bill, and hundreds of people signed up against, how they, have the audacity to select 3 from each side, when obviously that is really not an accurate representation. We saw in 2020 and 2021 that, using Zoom, it works. Look, here we all are. We can share our opinions virtually, but they took that away too. So they really don't want to engage with their constituents, it seems. And it's gotten to the point where it's just blatantly obvious. So let's talk a little bit to then. So that was the 1138, the gender affirming care and gender affirming surgeries and you said they changed it to under 16. Is that right? Yeah.
From 16 to 18.
Now, I don't know which one of you want to speak on 1165. So either of you, if you want to maybe talk a little bit, that was even more focused on trans girls, if I'm not mistaken. So either one of you, if you want to explain that to the audience, that would be great.
Carla, if you just want to do like an introduction, and then I can talk about like my experience with 1165 and that sort of thing.
So 1165 basically went after transgender girls. And again, when we go to these hearings, they don't think of, when they think of a little girl, like picture a transgender man. And that is what they think is playing sports in, first grade. They also think that every transgender athlete is an elite athlete who will kick everyone's butt, wipe everyone. They think everyone's a Caitlyn Jenner. And Leah Thompson is not getting the credit she deserves for being so amazing, because she's really an amazing athlete, to get to that level. So these bills specifically went after our little girls to play sports, to not let them be on teams and play sports with their friends.
Yeah, so 1165 basically cited something about like biological advantages that trans girls have over cisgender girls because of the testosterone in their body. However, again, these are just like elementary and middle school aged kids, and all of the gender affirming care that the bill cites and all of that is talking about hormone replacement therapy, gender affirming surgeries, and that's not the type of care that's going on for these kids. All of these kids, if they are receiving gender affirming care, it's going to be in the form of like hormone blockers or something like that. Nothing drastic, nothing irreversible at such a young age. And also, blocking trans kids from sports would be so detrimental. I played like 4 different sports growing up, and I almost had to sue my school district because they didn't want to let me, a trans man, play baseball with all the other little boys in middle school, right? So nobody was going to compete in the Olympics or anything, but it was just so heartbreaking knowing as like an 11, 12-year-old that I had to fight for just the right to play the sport I loved. And so seeing this happen to all the little kids come after me, I'm out of the public school system. I've reached 18, so these bills don't necessarily directly impact me, but I know where I was in my headspace at that age, and this will cause horrible effects on our trans kids. Like if I was in high school and I wasn't, I already think I couldn't receive care, but now if I was told by law that I will not receive gender affirming care, it would have done horrible things to my mental health, my physical health. So these are like high stake issues that we need to get, fixed for our kids because they're under attack through sports and through their bodies, like not even just not being allowed to play the sports. They've been saying like they're going to subject little girls to like inspections and chromosome testing and stuff like that, which is just illogical and unnecessary for these kids. And I just think it's ridiculous that these legislators are doing this to us.
I couldn't agree with you more. I remember too, during, I think it was in the Senate building, Skylar Morrison, I think is her
Skylar,
name.
yeah, she's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. She is amazing. And I hope she runs for president someday.
I do.
I've never seen someone her age be so unbelievably confident in front of a group of people who are so hateful in their actions and in their words, and to keep her composure like that is incredible. But one of the things that she said was, I'm just a normal girl. I love school. I have friends, whatever. And then she said, and I'm on my soccer team. And so when that one was passed and signed into law, that's all I could think of, something that brings this little girl joy. And because sports aren't even, like you said, very few people get to that elite competitive status. I mean, I played sports in high school, but it's truly only because I went to a very small high school. But it taught me so much too, right? Like how to be on a team, learning the rules. Sometimes there's even in certain sports, there's like physics and math and things like that involved. It's all these soft skills too. So to deny children the opportunity to play on a team and develop all those skills, it makes no sense. And it at this point seems that the cruelty is the point.
Exactly. The cruelty is the point that is the biggest thing there. Like you said, they're taking away our joy. And, as a kid, I always just thought I was a little dude, playing baseball with my friends and building our Legos or whatever, until I was told that because I was a girl, I couldn't play. So that just immediately ripped away the joy I had from that. And it just, I don't know, it was unfortunate, but yeah.
And, I mean, being trans is nothing new, right? This is something that has happened with human beings since the beginning of time. And I would say, because so many rights of members of the LGBTQ community have kind of been unlocked over this past decade or so, there's, people, well, I was going to say feel safer, but I'm not even sure, but people at one point were feeling very safe to be able to be their true selves. And so it's just a matter, in my opinion, of people seeing it more now, because people don't have to be in the closet regarding their gender identity anymore. And because they, and I mean, let's just be honest here, that this old guard of mostly white men feel like their power and control is slipping away. They are attacking anybody that does not fit into that category. And so, because I want to know what percentage are we talking about these bills that are so directed at such a small population of people? Like, what is the percentage of trans people, if you know, in Arizona, in the United States? How many of them play sports?
Honestly, I
Go
think
ahead,
in Arizona, what is there, like 12 or 17? There's very, very few, like they made all these bills to discriminate against like 12 kids in Arizona. All of that hate. But see, so basically, but this discrimination creates a wedge, right? It creates a wedge in the conservative, in like when I went to my child's school and tried to get the abortion, the reproductive rights petition signed, and they wouldn't sign it, and they're like, Carla, do you really think things will be that bad? Do you think it's going to get that bad? And I was like, yeah, I really do. I really do. After watching what they started to do in January, which, by the time that we get to come along in the process and testify and tell them what we think, like they've already written the bill, they already have support. We get 2 minutes, maybe a minute and a half to plead for our lives, which they look at their emails and they count us down. They're clearly not listening. Like this process, like I said, next year, I really had no intention of following their process. If it's going to be like this, like we need to full on show up and protest the whole time, because they need to know that if they keep passing these bills, that we're going to vote, that something is going to be done, and I was so happy when I saw Jean running, Julie running, Dana Allman down here. She's my District 17. What's crazy about my district, they redistrict us, and I live the very edge of Tucson. I like Houghton Road, where the fair is like, this is where Ash and I live, the edge of Tucson. This is at the end of Tucson. I drive 30 minutes to be in Marana, and that is the rest of LD 17. So it's split from me here in Rita Ranch. Then I drive 35 minutes to where I actually take my kids to school. And there's LD 17 signs over there, so I've actually been canvassing. That's another thing I've done. I've gone canvassing a lot, it's actually really fun. I really don't mind it. It's a little hot, but if I'm going to stand out there and protest and yell and scream, it's actually a lot nicer to go talk to neighbors, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's what they've done. I'm just shaking my head, and I can't help but think, if every single person in my neighborhood, or if I could talk to more people and just tell them like what's going on and what I saw and how bad things are, I think they would get activated.
Yeah, I'm always kind of, and obviously, right, I'm very focused on local politics. My background is as an educator. And so, as an educator, I would go down to hear various bills that were attacking teachers, or, like this last session, forcing teachers to out their LGBTQ students in HB 2161. My own daughter actually moved out of the state and she just graduated with a degree in education. She graduated honors from ASU. She lives in Oregon now, because she said, I can't teach. They want to make it so I can't teach an accurate history. She's a history teacher. She's like, I could get fined, fired, or decertified in the state of Arizona. Like, what's next? Will they throw me in jail for teaching about, the genocide of the Native people in North America? Will I, if I talk about slavery, am I going to get slapped on the wrist or find. It's just, that's where we are. And it's like, if we all just go through our regular lives right now, right? Like we go to work, we get up, we make plans for the weekend, we binge things on Netflix. But the sky is truly falling. And I'm so glad. I mean, I'm glad that you're activated, but I'm so sad that this is the reason why you've gotten so heavily involved, but I am grateful for your advocacy. I want to just say very quickly that if anybody does have any questions for Carla or Ash, go ahead and you can put them in the Q&A or throw them up onto Facebook. So now I'm curious, and either of you can answer this one too. Do you all have, other advocates in other states who have shared with you some of the, I mean, you talked a little bit about Texas, but there's other things in other states happening like Florida. So have you actually known folks who are truly leaving their states to avoid this kind of persecution?
I actually did an article in Rolling Stone, and Nico Lang, I don't know if you've spoken with him, but he did an article just about that, about how a lot of families, trust me, if I lived in Florida, I would probably feel like I need to move. I've lived in Arizona my whole life, and my daughter actually wants to go to Seattle, and I have no desire to go to Seattle, but part of me is thinking, well, maybe I should go to see, like I'm actually thinking of leaving. So yes, there are terrible things happening. Like my friend in Colorado, her daughter had to be taken out of school and go to a different school because the kids were throwing lunch at the gay kids. So basically having bills and having our government target us like this just opens the door to discrimination. It opens the door to people thinking like, oh, I don't have to let you pick up your medicine, or I don't have to let you vote. And actually, so I recently went to go get my daughter's name changed. And, you look up online what you need to get the name changed. And then we found out that people were going down to get their name changed with all their paperwork, and they're requiring them to give a birth certificate and a driver's license, which a lot of people don't have a birth certificate and a driver's license, but that is not a requirement to get your name changed. There was like Abby Jensen is a huge advocate. She's a lawyer and trans woman and a very good friend of mine. She actually wrote an appeal and that said, no, you do not, because once you give your birth certificate and your driver's license, it becomes public record. And transgender people, nobody needs their privacy violated like that. It does not need that. It's not necessary. But we found out they're making people do this to get their name changed here in Tucson. So my poor daughter, because I am an advocate, nothing is ever simple. We go down to the courthouse and most people go down and they like take pictures and they're all happy. Not us. We went down to the courthouse and we were like, we're not going to provide those documents. We did ask my daughter, like, I have your birth certificate. We have what you need. So we could give this. But she was like, no, I want to make it so that other people who come after me will have a better, easier time, because not everybody has this documentation. So of course, Abby fortunately went with my daughter and I got to watch from the hallway and I heard her just saying like, that's not required. I wrote an appeal. Let me talk to your supervisor. She had to fight. So everything we do is a fight. But I feel like, I cry all the time and it's really hard. But then I meet people like Ash, and I just think Ash is so brave and so amazing. And he has 2 scholarships and he's like an incredible kid. Like this kid's going to go far. And so many people that I meet like that, they are worth fighting for. My friend Abby is worth fighting for, and so like apparently, I cannot, I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm like, we can't live like this. A lot of times I'm up at 12 o'clock at night, because I am talking to people, like hearing about problems and you know, some of my friends don't have enough money for food, and it's, you know, there's just so many issues. The fact that we have to fight for every single little thing, and it's tiring, but again, like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna keep doing it. And I would like some help.
And I see here that Lindsay actually put up, we do have Abby Jensen coming on to speak. So at the end, we will, no, I mean, not right now, but I mean,
okay.
like, we're going to have a future event. So you'll have to make sure that you come
Yes.
and hear her conversation. You know, there is a divide even within the secular community. There are some very famous like atheist agnostics who have inserted their opinions about transgender people. And so, you know, some of them might even be watching right now. So, I would love, and maybe Ash or Carla, either one of you could talk a little bit about this. Like, how do you talk to those folks who are like, you know, you feel like they should be on your side or able to hear your perspective. And they're like, well, that's, you know, I studied science, I'm a scientist, and, you know, this is all whatever. So how do you talk to people who you feel like really should be on your side? Like, you know, I've had a lot of conversations with folks, either inside or outside our organization or one of our liaised organizations, and they struggle with the idea of accepting transgender people.
Well, okay, in my experience, I haven't really had to deal with anyone that has like studied biology or anything like that and is coming from like that approach. But I have come across people who will show me support and acceptance up front, but then their actions will undermine them through their voting patterns and, you know, the things they share on Facebook and just information they're spreading, which is just blatantly not true. So with them, it's really hard to kind of take, I guess, the high road and not want to, you know, be combative with them. Like, this is how it is and you're wrong. But I really have to focus on like coming to a middle ground where they can understand, like, you know, here is the biology of what being transgender is, like the gender dysphoria aspect, like how that is a medical diagnosis that you can see happen through the development of a fetus. Like, the brain and the body do develop at different times and they do become messed up sometimes. So that's, you know, exactly how that happens. But, you know, if people are just coming at me with, oh, well, chromosomes are XX and XY only, then there's really not much you can do because they're just really not open to learning about other possibilities. But I do just try and bring in the scientific, you know, aspect of it that does support that being transgender is a medical diagnosis and a real scientific thing that happens, and that we're not just confused little girls or whatever that people like to say we are. So, you know.
I think that I learned a lot showing up at the Capitol and going to hearings, you know, and my children have friends who identify as trans or non-binary. You know, I have children myself who identify as gay, as lesbian. So like you know, I feel like I have a really open mind, that I have a pretty good understanding, but just hearing some of the medical professionals down at the Capitol too really helped me understand what it feels like to grow up trans. And I think that everybody would benefit from really just sitting down and talking. You know, I do a lot of door knocking as well these days, and I have some very interesting conversations with people. And it's kind of funny because when I knock on a door, oftentimes a question will come up like, you know, are you Democrat or Republican? And, you know, I'll say, well, I'm a Democrat. And then, you know, next thing you know, they're like, well, I'll never vote for you. But I will actually say, you don't even know me, you know, like whatever. And this is no way any kind of endorsement. You know, my candidacy is very separate from this organization, but there are some really wonderful conversations that I've actually had with people on the other side, as long as they're open-minded enough to hear what I have to say. So that it's lacking these days. So how are you all organizing for the upcoming, well, I heard you talk about the election. Sounds like you're working for some candidates. That's great. But how are you preparing or bracing yourself for the legislative session?
Well, at the moment, we are like, I'm going to do a function on the 27th of August with Organize Arizona. And again, I'm basically just going to all these functions and going as a quality squad and bringing, awareness and just meeting more people this army we're trying to build here. And then a quality squad, like we did testimony training recently. We want to do some, I think it would be beneficial, like after, Ash and I getting arrested, it's definitely when you go out to protest, there's ways to stay safe, that we did not know about before we started doing that, and so there's a lot of education that we need to keep doing, and hopefully and bring more, because I don't blame, transgender people are very hesitant to come out and advocate because they've got targets on their backs, so I don't blame them. But at the same time, I really hope that we can provide, if we have, it's been about building allies, and allies, you can say you're an ally, but the proof is in the pudding on if you do that work every single day. If you provide spaces for transgender people and put them in platforms, and there just needs to be more publicity, which is why we did go speak to, like, we knew Blackman wasn't going to change his mind, but he has aspirations to go to Congress. And I just want him to know that Carla Roberts is going to be in Tucson watching him and talking mad shit about him. I'm going to hold every politician accountable, like when we go, because like it was great to hear people speak, but I saw how powerless the Democrats were this last session. I mean, they literally sent them home for the budget. That's not fair representation in our government. Like this is not right. Like Arizona has just gone wacky. And so, based, like I said, we're preparing by educating and empowering people, just letting them know, and we do have some new protections. We talked a little about like the ADA is got like a Title IV protection, and that was specifically for some people in prison, for trans people in prison, to help them get their medication and help them give them the rights, because people are dying in prison. People are dying everywhere because they're not getting proper medical care. And, the military tried to stop, that's the Bostock. They tried to stop giving medical care to trans people in the military, like they're this, and, when people try to tell me that my daughter cannot have right, like, I do not argue with them. I do not, like, to me, these are human rights, and this discrimination, it is blatant discrimination, what they're trying to do. We're all human beings. We all deserve rights. We all deserve space. And, if can you imagine if you went to the ladies' room and you saw a fully bearded man in there, a transgender, man in there going to the bathroom? That's what it's going to come to. And personally, if I can use the men's room, I go and use the men's room just to start getting people used to this, because that's what's going to happen. And there's absolutely no law that says I have to use the ladies' room, and we can use any bathroom we want. We're just not supposed to go in public, right? So, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable at all, but none of this is comfortable. It hurts, it's painful, but this is the perfect time. I mean, with all of us losing reproductive, 50% of us lost the right for reproductive justice, like, what is our world coming to?
Do have a comment, but real quick, Ash, did you say that this is your second year at NAU? Is that right?
Yeah, I'll be a sophomore this year. So I was up there last year and I'm just back for the summer right now.
So I'm curious, and then we'll get to Debbie's comment. She's actually down in Tucson as well. You
Okay.
should connect with Debbie if you don't know her. But
Awesome.
so does NAU have a club or a group or something for, like some kind of ally group for LGBTQ students that are going there? And how involved are you in that?
So we have a group, it's called Prism. It's through NAU. I'm not very involved with it, just I didn't really get involved with a ton of things last year. But
You
I
kind of
would
have a
love
lot
to-
on your plate too. You're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
studying a lot of things. So
Yeah, I was pretty busy, but I plan on getting more involved with them this year and hopefully bringing some of them to Equality Squad and bringing Equality Squad to them and building that kind of army up in Flagstaff also. And if I can start a Secular Student Alliance up there as well and get everyone involved with the education that Equality Squad has planned, that would be amazing.
right on. All right. So Debbie, who, like I said, is down in Tucson. Let's see. Thank you for that comment to an anonymous attendee. Have you thought of enabling chat to promote the community building? There have been a few instances where some really ugly things were said in the chat. It's something that I'm open-minded to, but I really don't want there to be a space for any kind of slurs or attacking. So, we'll do our best to figure that out, and it could be something we consider for the next time. But I just don't want anybody to have to go through that. So Debbie Golden Davis says, my sister and a niece are trans. My sister completed her transition over 40 years ago. It was a different world. While she was growing up, it was just assumed that she, who was a he then, was a homosexual male. My niece is married with a 10-year-old daughter and is going through all of this in South Carolina. So more of a comment than a question. Debbie also says, I was an officer in PFLAG Tucson before we disbanded. Nearly all of our families who attended meetings over the last few years had questions about trans children, and she'd like to restart oh, good, I'm so happy to hear that. She wants to restart the University of Arizona Secular Student Alliance. So that's very good news because we've been struggling to get that going. Thank you so much, Debbie. I really appreciate that. Okay, so let's see. I want to make sure I'm honoring everybody's time. So 12:50, that gives us about 10 minutes, and then I'll talk a little bit about some of the events that we have coming up. As I said earlier, we've got Abby Jensen coming up. Actually, if you want to flash that on the screen real quick, Lindsay, because then we can get that out of the way and let Carla and Ash close us out. So if you want to share the screen that has our events, like I said, Tucson Unified School District will be on next Wednesday. Next Friday, we have, oh shoot, no, I'm not, oh good, thank goodness. We have, it's something next Friday is going to be about ranked choice voting, which I'm really excited to learn more about that. And then you can see that we have somebody from Yale Law School to discuss reproductive rights. And then we're going to start doing a series actually for people to learn more about the Constitution with a local attorney here in the Phoenix area. So you can see what we've got going on over here. What we're talking about today is reaching this fever pitch because of Christian nationalists who want to impose their beliefs on everybody. While we go around our daily lives in our own bodies and we're not hurting anybody, we're not forcing our beliefs on anybody else or our way of life or our sexual orientation or our gender identity, none of that. But they want to impose their beliefs, their archaic beliefs on us. And so this is such an important discussion because it truly is the rise of fascism, and it's pretty scary stuff. So, but hopefully you can close us on a more positive note, and just give us your thoughts, or maybe if you have opportunities for people to get more involved, we'd love to hear about that as well.
I think one of the biggest things I heard even during ledge session, because people would come, like I would see on Facebook, like, I want to testify, but I don't know how. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go, and then a lot of times when I'm out protesting, I hear people like, they'll be like, okay, now what? Now what do I do? So I definitely see, especially here in Tucson, which I love, so many people wanting to be activated, they want to be involved, but they don't know how. you know? So I think providing spaces for people, you know, like anybody who comes to me, of course, as I tell them, like, I know these events are going on, and then I am definitely trying to get them to be involved in groups like this for education, you know, HRC, uh, just get involved, start learning. And then these, you know, come the time for the Capitol, you know, and like we are pushing voter rights right now for people to vote. And then to me, what goes hand in hand with voting is CEBV. You know, like it doesn't end at voting. Then we have that civic engagement beyond voting, you know, and again, this is all stuff that I just learned. Like I learned so much in 3 months that at the beginning, because I actually got to watch that process of the bills being written, and then they passed the Senate, then they passed the House. Then, you know, so every opportunity we tried to stop. And then when it got to Ducey and the veto, and I knew it wasn't going to veto. I knew it wasn't, because of the way that our government had gone, you know? And so people can continue to sit back and go, I wonder what's going to happen. Like it's going downhill, you know, it's going to be bad if we don't go like, okay, yeah, I'm willing to put my neck out there, you know, I'm willing. And like I said, I'm willing, like I'm willing. And so if people can find me, like I'll help you, I'll teach you in a big thing that we are doing, because clearly I involved with a marginalized community, that safety is extremely important to us, you know, so ally building and all of this stuff, you know, and like it sucks to have our government come after us like this, but the people that I'm meeting are amazing. You know, the community that I'm meeting in Tucson, we had a function last night, and you know, and we so often, you can tell like we're getting to know each other because we're talking about our family, you know, we're talking about our dogs, you know, the most important things in our life, you know, and that's coming through this community building. So even though all of this stuff is terrible, it's really a great opportunity for us to flip things and really make a difference, you know. And I like that, like fever pitch, you know, it's firebrand time, you know, and there's plenty of us out there. There's plenty of us out there who want to do this. So we thank you for the visibility, and I can't wait to hear Abby talk. I just love listening to her. She's so smart. And the transgender community, I've just completely fallen in love with them. You know, that's pretty much like before my daughter came out as transgender, I feel like our world was very vanilla. And now we've got that rainbow, you know, it's a huge rainbow. It's like, it's so, you know, because we went to the Capitol and we fought, and then we come home and we do very normal things. You know, we go to school. My kids are in Japanese sword class where they like to hit each other on the heads with swords, you know, so we have fun. Like we don't have these horrible lives. So I did tell everyone, like, I don't want to have any more tears for the Capitol. I have plenty for my community, but not for the politicians anymore. Like I want to show up tough and I want to show up mad. And we can only do that if we build together right now. So thank you very much for doing what you do. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's definitely my pleasure. And Debbie's contact information is in the chat if you want to hook up with Debbie and talk about how you can all work together. Her information's there. And Ash, do you want to give us any words of wisdom and leave us all maybe with some hope in these dark days?
You know, like Carla was saying, the biggest thing right now is to get people united and activated as a whole, as a collective. And my goal in that specifically is to get young people, get the new college students who are getting ready to vote for the first time, getting them registered, getting them knowledgeable about their representatives and what's going on in their communities so that they feel more confident voting and more educated and spreading their knowledge to other people. And that's how we, you know, come together as a group. But it really was amazing. In Tucson, we had thousands and thousands of people at the protests the day that Roe dropped, and that was really beautiful to see. There was a lot of young women in the middle, in the center of it. They were the feistiest of them all, And that was amazing. So I'm really hopeful to see more people like that and to meet more people like that and just, you know, come together full force and attack the government the way they're attacking us, you know?
Mhm.
So
I'm sorry, somebody asked if you have a website, so I went ahead and put the Facebook group on there. So for those who want to get involved on the Facebook group, I put the link there. And so, yeah, I'm really glad that we were able to coordinate this. I think that you have a really well, you are very impressive because given the short amount of time that you've learned so much, I think that everybody could learn something from you. And I think that CEBV should have you as a speaker as well, because you know, you could take away the fear that a lot of people have when it comes to the engagement beyond voting part. So with that, we're finishing up a little bit early today. Thank you so much, Carla, and thank you so much, Ash, for joining
thank you
us.
for having
Thank
us.
you.
Of course, you all have a great day and have a great weekend, everybody. Take
You
care.
too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.